Hi, I'm Sean Hammond with PremierGuitar.com. We're at the New York Amp Show with Red Iron Amps. We just heard Chris Strante on guitar there. We've got Paul here who's going to tell us about their amps here. Paul, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing great, man. We had lots of fun here today. Enjoyed talking with all the different folks. And these, mainly why we're here today is Barry Weber is a late great friend of ours. And I wanted to come here specifically to honor our friend Barry here.
Tell us a little bit about Barry for the people who aren't familiar with him.
I don't know him anywhere near as much as Rob does, but Barry Weber, what he told me is he is a modern day patron of the arts, and he would love the small builder, and he would purchase from the small builder. But on top of that, he's the type of guy that every 2 or 3 months he would call me on the phone, and we'd sit there and chat 15, 20 minutes, and I'd say, well, I wonder why he called me. And then later on I'd realize he just called me just because that's who Barry is. And he just wanted to keep up with all the people that he knew. And that really blessed me. He was a great guy.
Cool. And a lot of people may see the picture that we just showed and feel like he looks familiar, and that would be probably because they've seen him as the guitar expert on the Antique Roadshow program.
Well, he was during his day job, he was an antique jewelry aficionado, seller, and plus, at New York shows, he was such a fixture that pretty much everybody knew him or knew about him. He would be in the halls and out of the doors, and he would be saying, you've got to hear this amp, you've got to try out this pedal. He just loved the life of doing shows like this. Of course, he did his own shows as well. We just missed him, and we really enjoy having him around.
Cool. So you have two versions of the same basic model here. One of them was Barry's personal amp, which you tweaked to his liking.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Okay. Barry bought the Red Sonia here, which is my Bronx version, and played it for several months, and then sent it back and said he wanted it voiced more to his preference because he was a slide player. And so he sent it back, and we talked about it a little bit, and then I sent it back and said, okay, this is the best interpretation I have for what you told me you would like. And thankfully it was dead on. But before that, Rob heard this amp and said, geez, I've got to buy that amp too. So he bought this one. So now, well, after Barry passed, he bequeathed Sonia to him. So now Rob has two of them.
Now, tell everyone who Rob is.
Rob Albertuzzi, who is there sitting on the couch, and he graciously came by, brought these two amps with him, along with the speaker cabinet, and allowed me to be able to not have to ship everything back and forth. And so we're just sitting out here hanging out, having a good time. I hadn't seen Rob in a couple of years, so here we are.
How about we have Chris give us a sample of a few different types of tones.
Knock it out.
Nice. Sounds really good, man. Yeah. Nice playing. Now, it's got a foot switchable function. Tell us about that.
That is it's what I call a tonal bypass switch. my amps are pretty simple, but it gets even more simpler with this switch. All it does is bypass all of the tone control systems, so that now all the gain that you might have lost in your tone control system is now redeemed. And it also purifies the sound because you're not going through so many components. So it gives a big volume boost. You can sit there and just play your nice little rhythm, and then when you come time for your lead break, hit that, and you're automatically boosted.
Okay, now tell us about the knobs that we do have here. There's only 3, but those are.
It's just volume, bass, and treble, and the one little difference that these are from other amps is I use what's called a Baxandal tone control system. They kind of quit using those in the hi-fis of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and I've used them from day one, and I just love them. They're very interactive rather than very linear.
What tubes do we have in these?
We use 6 SL7. They are very old school. They are octal preamp tubes. They have a much rounder, three-dimensional quality to them. Also, using 6550s in this particular amp.
The top one here is the bottom one the same?
They're both the same thing anyway. And their 6550s are not used that much in power amps anymore. Route 66, Dr. Z had them in his. Marshalls, when they first came out with KT66s. But I like them because they're more muscular, they're more full-bodied, and they lend themselves more aptly to this particular amp. It's called the Bronx, and I named it that because if you go into the Bronx part of town, you go there intentionally. You don't go there casually. Just a clean mode without the bypass.
All right, Paul, so next to that you've got a big head there. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's a friend of mine, Ron Howe, wanted a particular amp. He bought a Sarah Jane that I had here 2 years ago, and he says, "Can you build a Sarah Jane that does this?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Can it do this?" And I said, "Yes." And so it just kind of evolved, and in essence what it is 50 watts of RCA black plate 6L6 GC and 50 watts of Mullard EL34s. So they're both kind of the cream of the crop of their genre of output tubes. Then he said, well, can we get the amp to play a blend of both of them? So now we have maybe 100 watts of RCA and Mullard. And he said, well, now can you get that to play at half the volume? I said, yeah, but let's go this way and use this power soak system by Skip Circuits. It's called the Variwatt. So I can run from 100 watts down to 1 watt. In essence, all we have is a volume control and then the Variwatt control. So it's quite an unusual beast, and he's going to receive this in about 5 or 6 weeks. We're waiting for a black cabinet from Mather Cabs. All I had was this red one, but I really wanted to bring this to a show, just kind of a little side benefit. The first input is just the input of the amp. The second input is it's got another bypass too. So it's kind of like another boost. But the switching is actually a mechanical switch in the back, a 3-position switch.
So, Paul, where can people go to find out more about your amps?
Go to redironamps.com, and you'll see all the different amps that I have there. There's a couple other things that I build as well. But mainly it has my phone number. We can interact by email, but eventually if you're wanting a custom amp, I really want to talk to you so we can interact 3 or 4 times. You're buying an amp, you want to know the people that you're building for, and they want to hear your voice.
So you can customize the whole process.
Yeah.
Great.
I'd much rather go that route. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Chris. Sounded great. I'm Sean Hammond. Thanks for watching PremierGuitar.com.